For thousands of years, wise shamans within the depths of the Amazon have carried out fascinating rituals. An ancient elixir brewed from two common plants serves as a portal for indigenous people to commune with the world unseen. Medicine men and commoners alike are able to gain insights into the mysteries of existence and heal the physical and spiritual ailments which plague their communities. Today on Northo2, we will be talking about the history and significance of ayahuasca. I am not advocating for the use of this substance. This video is purely an anthropological look into ayahuasca, its meaning to the people of the Amazon, and its worldwide effects. The origins of ayahuasca may extend deep within the forgotten past. Humans have lived in the Amazon since the last glacial period, possibly for over 20,000 years. The great paintings of Serrania de la Lindosa in the Colombian Amazon attest to the truly extraordinary lives of these people. Scenes of people interacting with giant sloths, trunked beasts, and camelids can be found. Among them, countless abstract symbols. Could these artists have been inspired by the use of psychedelic substances? Possibly. Regardless, what is important to understand is that people have been living in the lungs of the earth for countless generations. The Amazon is home to as many as 80,000 species of plants. Species which through centuries of experimentation has led indigenous communities to obtain an arsenal of effective medicines. Many of these plants have psychedelic properties. A combination of two of them creates ayahuasca. The elixir is created by combining a vine known as Banisteriopsis caapi and the leaves of a shrub called Psychotria viridis. The root needs to be smashed, added into a container with the leaves, and boiled for hours. The brew contains the extremely powerful psychedelic drug dimethyltryptamine and alkaloids which allow dimethyltryptamine to become orally active. Dimethyltryptamine, or DMT for short, is an extremely potent psychedelic substance which produces a brief but intense visual and auditory hallucinogenic experience. Ayahuasca is considered to be an entheogen, which is a psychoactive substance that is used in a sacred or religious context. Other such substances include peyote and psilocybin mushrooms. The name ayahuasca is a word in the Quechuan language roughly translating to the spirit vine or soul vine. The earliest archaeological evidence of the use of psychoactive plants in the Amazon date between 3,500 to 4,000 years ago, though experimentation would naturally extend much further in the past. Some of the earliest evidence of ayahuasca use comes from mummies in southern Peru. Many of these mummies come from a religious center known as Cahuachi. Cahuachi was a religious center used by the Nazca people starting around 2,000 years ago. Analysis of the hair of these mummies has revealed traces of mescaline and ayahuasca. Neither of the plants were native to the region and were likely transported across the Andes Mountains. Over time, ayahuasca became less common in these mummies after the Nazca were conquered by the Wari and coca consumption became more common. The presence of these chemicals in these mummies has caused a fair amount of speculation on the purpose of their use. Bioarchaeologist Dagmara Soka has hypothesized that the antidepressant effects of these remedies may have been the reason for their use. She said, in the case of the children that were sacrificed, they were given Banisteriopsis caapi probably because it was important for them to go happily to the gods. There were actually many individuals sacrificed in a similar manner found all over Peru, but that is a topic for another video. Further direct evidence of early ayahuasca use comes from the Tinahuacu people of Peru and Bolivia. A roughly 1,000-year-old collection of drug paraphernalia found in a rock shelter in Bolivia was found to have traces of 5 psychoactive chemicals including ayahuasca. The so-called ritual kit included a leather bag, 2 snuffing trays, a snuffing straw, another pouch, bone tools, and a headband. The snuffing trays and the straw feature elaborate anthropomorphic figurines with inlaid stones. It was likely that rape or a similar substance was snuffed through these tubes. Rape is a mixture of tobacco and other herbs that is often inhaled during ayahuasca ceremonies. Rape is still common in ayahuasca ceremonies today, and it is interesting that the practice may be over 1,000 years old. Traces of ayahuasca were found on the kit, suggesting it may have been used during these rituals even if the artifacts were not necessarily used for ayahuasca itself. Considering ayahuasca is relatively easy to make and would not necessarily leave much evidence behind, it is possible that it was used widely throughout the Amazon basin and even beyond. We do know that by the time Western ethnographers got to the area, ayahuasca use was widespread among numerous indigenous tribes. I think we were all a little bit jealous that these people got to live in pristine wilderness, some devoid of any society, living one with nature and occasionally ingesting the spirit vine to connect even further to the jungle. And in fact, there are plenty of people contacted and uncontacted living deep in the Amazon today. This kind of connection with nature is one we have almost entirely abandoned in our modern ways. Though the origins of ayahuasca use may be shrouded in mystery, we do know quite a lot about how various indigenous people use the substance and what it means to them. But before talking about the significance of this substance in Amazonian cultures, we should first mention what a traditional ayahuasca ritual actually consists of. No two rituals are the same, and the actual mixture differs greatly from tribe to tribe. The first step would typically be to fast and to abstain from certain activities prior to the actual ritual. Meats, fats, and salts were often abstained from, as well as social and sexual activities. Individuals who often did not know each other would gather in a forest clearing or a dwelling. An ayahuasquero is a person who is trained in preparing the brew and setting up the ceremony, while a curandero is a person who is especially trained to help people through the ritual and heal individuals. Either of these individuals could be present, but it is best to have a curandero who is actively monitoring the ritual and the experiences of the guests. Before the consumption of ayahuasca itself, the previously mentioned rapé would be blown up the nose. It can be quite an intense stimulant, heightening the senses before the administration of ayahuasca brings them all down. The brew, typically drank in liquid form, is usually drank in small cups or bowls. It is described as viscous and bitter tasting. Shamans then proceed to sing icaros, which are magic songs consisting of whistling and singing. These songs are passed on from curandero to curandero, though new songs occasionally come from the spirits. The patient then feels nauseous and often vomits shortly after. Traditionally, this is seen as a beneficial purge of the system. Symbolically, it is seen as removing bad spirits or energies. These rituals often included the sucking or whisking of painful parts of the body inflicted by injury. As the DMT seeps into the mind, people often sweat and their heartbeat races. Stunning visuals of colors and geometric shapes are seen, and then very vivid hallucinations of animal and humanoid figures are seen within a psychedelic world. Some people report a sense of another being inhabiting their body or being in touch with some other consciousness. Of course, there are a million different subjective feelings associated with the experience. The actual effects of the brew last between 2 to 6 hours, though in one ceremony individuals may consume it multiple times. A traditional ritual lasts anywhere between 2 to 10 hours in total. Ayahuasca has undoubtedly served different purposes throughout the various culturally distinct groups of the Amazon. Though across these groups, similarities can be identified. The main motivations consist of accessing greater knowledge, entering an altered state of consciousness, and providing healing effects. Accessing new knowledge appears to be the most important purpose to many. A 2019 study described the idea of dietas. Ayahuasqueros follow a strict diet while consuming many plant concoctions which contain a variety of psychedelic compounds, including ayahuasca. They also seclude themselves from others and abstain from sexual or physical activities. The idea is similar to other ascetic traditions in which sensual pleasures are denied in order to pursue spiritual goals. Dietas typically last 8, 15, or as many as 30 days. A 2010 study reported that a Quechua shaman described that individuals training to become shamans would consume ayahuasca every day for 5 years, all while maintaining a strict diet of only mashed banana and would abstain from sexual relationships. This process was said to have allowed a shaman to gain the true knowledge of shamanism. Some Quechua shamans are Christian and think of ayahuasca as a sacred being which teaches its disciples. They believe they must go through physical and mental suffering under the influence of ayahuasca before they can actually learn from the substance. These shamans then help train other shamans and also host rituals for non-shamans to experience the brew. Though throughout various communities, not all individuals partake in the ritual. In 1968, scientists John Eric Lindgren and Laurent Riviere found that in most of the Pano communities that they studied, only the actual shamans consumed ayahuasca. These healers would use the drink to help them discover the causes of patients' illnesses. They then would use various remedies and techniques to heal them. They also found communities where average men and occasionally women casually drank ayahuasca as a form of social bonding. A botanist in the Amazon found that some Sibundoy communities in Colombia used ayahuasca for spiritual rituals, but also for more casual reasons. Some drank the brew to learn about nature and their place within it, while some said that they would use it to psychically visit family while they were away from home on long trips. Another important aspect of these rituals is that they are not always a permanent aspect of every culture. Some communities completely abandon the practice for decades only to resume it in the future. The rituals practiced within individual communities often evolve to fit situational problems and circumstances. Ayahuasca has become more common in South America over the past century or two and has even spread around the world in the past 2 decades. Loggers and rubber tappers from other South American countries were some of the first to bring the practice out of the heart of the Amazon and into other South American countries. This has caused some Western-based religions to become associated with ayahuasca. Some of these religions have become prominent enough to spread outside of South America all the way to Europe and North America. Peru has emerged as the center of ayahuasca use, with the city of Iquitos becoming a very popular tourist destination. Local police told American curandero Alan Shoemaker that they believe that on any given Friday night, 10% of the population is in ceremony. That would be around 50,000 people in this city alone. Many foreigners flock to regions like these to have authentic ayahuasca rituals. Unfortunately, many of them have unrealistic and idolized views of shamanism and ayahuasca rituals. Many of these tourists have a legitimate desire to engage in an authentic ayahuasca experience, though most of them do not have the knowledge of what this actually entails. Consequently, many tourists end up being enticed by fake shamans who seek to only gain monetary benefit while providing tourists with the unrealistic experiences they seek. These shamans typically give their guests ayahuasca but remove many of the cultural and religious contexts which actually make these ceremonies impactful. Many tourists are wholly unaware of the aesthetic elements which are essential to the experience. Elements including fasting and suffering that create actual transformative experiences. Some find that the traditional elements can be difficult and challenging and would rather simply ingest the substance with little ritual. These watered-down experiences often involve ditching icaros for more soothing background music. One fake shaman even got exposed for singing a childhood lullaby instead of an icaro. Some often use different concoctions of ayahuasca to produce more visually stimulating experiences. These rituals and ayahuasca experiences in general can actually be dangerous for some individuals. Some anthropologists have taken issue with this modification of existing traditions, likening it to a form of cultural colonization. An important aspect of these rituals is that they are highly influenced by the individual's respective culture. This is true of virtually all psychedelic experiences. For ayahuasca rituals involving indigenous communities, the experiences are heavily grounded in local cultures and traditions. When foreigners come to engage in these ceremonies, they often miss out on most of the cultural context on what the rituals are for, what is to be learned, and how the experiences are to be interpreted. Unfortunately, this can result in these tourists having bad experiences, which can even include severe mental issues. This phenomenon was noticed by anthropologist Anthony Wallace when studying peyote use. He found that among Native Americans who had an existing framework for utilizing these substances, the experiences were almost all positive. In contrast, European Americans disproportionately had extremely distressing experiences, likely due to the fact that they had no cultural framework associated with the substance. It is thus important to recognize that the traditions formed around these substances can be just as important as the substance itself. This does not mean that Westerners or foreigners in general should stay away from the substance or not go on ayahuasca retreats. It just means that people need to be very conscientious about what they are really doing and to respect what they are partaking in. Ayahuasca has become recognized worldwide as a substance used in spiritual and religious ceremonies, leading to legal exceptions from drug laws. Even in the United States, some drug control exemptions have been issued to Amazonian-rooted churches. Though it is not just religions that understand its importance, the medical field has even taken notice. A variety of scientific studies have found that ayahuasca can be beneficial to a variety of addictive disorders and mental health issues. Many people have reported that traditional ceremonies have helped them overcome lifelong addictions and PTSD. A growing interest from the scientific community and medical communities has resulted in actual clinical tests being done. Some studies have shown that compounds in ayahuasca have neuroprotective and neurorestorative qualities. It has even been shown to generate the growth of new neural cells in the brain and boost memory. Other studies have shown that ayahuasca significantly helped with severe depression and helped with other mood disorders. This substance is becoming the classic case of a traditional medicine making its way into the modern medical world. According to some who work and live among people in the Amazon, there are many more natural remedies which science might be able to benefit from. I highly recommend checking out conservationist Paul Rosalie if you want to learn more about this amazing region and the plants, animals, and people that call it home. Ayahuasca is an extremely fascinating product of the Amazon and its ingenuitive inhabitants. As empires rose and fell, and the world outside of the Amazon evolved, ayahuasca endured as a sacred thread woven into the fabric of indigenous spirituality. While ayahuasca has the potential to offer unique insights and transformative experiences, caution, respect for cultural context, and a commitment to responsible use are essential. Research into the therapeutic potential of ayahuasca is still in its early stages, and more rigorous scientific studies are needed to understand its effects and risks. If you are thinking of using such a substance or others like it, I advise you to heavily research its history and culture surrounding it. This could probably help in your appreciation and even may help you have a better trip, I guess. Of course, also make sure to do it in a place that's legal and in a responsible environment. Thanks for watching the video.